What's up YouTube? Demordred here, doing another video on Thea the Awakening by Muha Games. In today's video we're going to be covering starting a new game, setting your difficulties, and choosing a new god. So when you select new game, you are going to randomly be given 2 gods from the first 6. Lada is unlocked by playing the game and completing the Cosmic Tree quest in any other gods, and Perun is unlocked once you've unlocked all the others. Now the remaining 4 of the 6 that you could get can be unlocked by leveling a god you already have up to level 3. Once you do so, one of the currently locked gods will randomly be selected to become unlocked. And then you would have to choose either your remaining one or the newly unlocked one to get to level 3 to unlock yet another, and so on until you have all of them. So first thing you want to do is think about what your focus is going to be on your village. You have 3 options. Warriors will let you start out with a medic and several warriors and just a single crafter and a single gatherer. If you focus on gatherers, you'll get a hunter and several gatherers, a single crafter, and I believe a single warrior. I have not personally tried the craftsman, but it's going to be the same story where you get several craftsmen, a single warrior, a single gatherer, and I'm not sure what the additional unit you're going to get is. Next up is choosing your difficulty. There are several preset difficulties ranging from easy to godlike. Additionally, you can customize your difficulty. Again, you have the presets that you can choose, or you can go to custom, and then you get to change all of these settings to your liking. World size is pretty straightforward. You range from a small world to an extreme world. The bigger the world, the harder the difficulty is, because it makes you roam further to collect the resources that you need. World progression, it determines how fast the enemies get stronger. And again, as we saw in the first video, if you just hover over something, it will give you a quick little UI pop-up that describes everything. So snail means that enemies level up pretty slow and it gives you time to get your feet under you if you're new to the game, and then as you go up to True Thea, they get harder way fast and you need to be prepared for that. Economy just determines how hard it is to craft and gather things, which means the higher setting that you do for the economy, the more points it's going to take before you get a single bundle of whatever resource you're gathering, or it takes more points to craft that single item. Challenges difficulty determines how many enemies are in each challenge. So if you start at the easiest one, which is novice, you're going to have 3 to 4 enemies at the start of the game. However, if you start at deity at the start of the game, you could face 7 or 8. Enemy aggressiveness determines how much more likely they are to chase you down and attack you. It's not that big of a deal. The thing that I've noticed in this game is if it's in the daytime, they're less likely to attack you, whereas at nighttime they're more likely to attack you. And that aggressiveness you don't really notice until it's nighttime. Starting villagers is just as it sounds, how many villagers you're going to start out with. You have it range from 10 to 7. This is one of the few ones that I recommend never changing, because starting with 7 is just super hard. You have almost nothing left to protect your village just to send out a small expedition to collect resources. I always recommend starting with 10 on that. Reshuffles. When you start doing challenges, you have the option of reshuffling your hands if you don't like the way it was distributed between your combat hand and your tactical hand. You can start with free reshuffles, which just means you click reshuffle and it doesn't cost you anything, and it gives you a new random hand. The other 2 options are the same difficulty modifier, but the difference is for paid, you lose a card when you click reshuffle, so it's no longer in the pool for that round. And then none means you're just going to take whatever hand you're given and roll with it. Since there's no difficulty change in the modifier between none and paid, it's just more recommended to go with paid. That way, if you really do get that crappy hand shuffle, you can lose one to try to get a better hand. For saves, you just have two options, on or off. On means you can choose to save at any time, which gives you that option of save scumming if you prefer. And turning it off just means that it only saves when you click quit and save. That's your only option for you to choose when to save, is when you end the game. Realism basically is a setting that makes it so even if you have a higher gathering skill than is what is required to gather an item, you can only gather one bundle of it. So let's say wood, for example, usually takes 40 gathering skill to get a single bundle. If realism is set to easy and you send somebody with 80 gathering skill to collect it, they will collect 2 bundles of wood in one turn. But if you set realism to normal, then even though he has 80 gathering, he's still only going to collect a single bundle of wood. This makes the game so much harder because you can no longer like stack up your gatherers to get that resource you really need and just collect it as fast as possible and get out. Now it's just 1 per turn is your max. Group limits is a factor that determines how many cards you get to take into combat. 12 is the hardest setting, which just means you're only allowed a maximum of 12 cards to fight with. 6 will be in your combat hand and 6 will be in your tactical hand. You can set it all the way up to no limit, which means even if you have a group of 50 people in your expedition, you will have 50 cards to play in each combat. Obviously, the off is the easiest setting because then you can just create a massive group and just steamroll almost everything. Finally, there's Bloodbath. So normally in a game, when your character takes damage, they get wounded. If they take maximum damage, which means they've taken damage equal to their total life, they're just at 0 life. And it doesn't matter if their total life is 10 and they took 50 damage, they're only going to be at 0 life. If you turn Bloodbath on, however, in that same example, if you have 10 life and you take 50 damage, you are now at negative 40 life at the end of combat, which means you need to heal 40 points of health just to get back to 0, and then you're still on the chance of dying until you get up to, not critically wounded, which that just means you're pretty much guaranteed to lose that character before they have a chance to heal, because every turn you're doing the death check, and it's going to be a maximum death check because you're less than 0 health. So when starting your game, if you're a first-time player, I recommend starting out between easy and normal. And then once you've got that first game under your belt, that's when I would suggest coming in here and kind of playing with things and creating your own custom difficulty. And the reason you want to mess around with the difficulties is, if you've noticed down here, these percentages multiply your final score, whether you win or you lose or you give up in a game. So let's say you've earned 100 points in the game. Well, if you're on easy, you've actually only earned 65 of those 100 points towards your god's level. And then normal, in that same example, you would have only earned 85 points of your god towards their level. When I do my custom, I like to come in, and small is usually a good option. I will go up to normal if I need that extra 5%. World progression is not as bad in my opinion, so I usually go with normal or true Thea. Economy, easy to normal is okay. Challenge difficulty, I would recommend starting with novice. Enemy aggressiveness, like I said, to me, I haven't really noticed too much of a difference with that, so I go with 20. I always suggest starting with 10. Reshuffles, I go with the paid option. For saves, I turn it off. Realism, I have played with normal, and I absolutely hate it. Like I said, it just makes the game so much harder since you can only collect one bunch of something, and makes you be far more micro management towards your playstyle. For group limits, I play with 12. I haven't noticed too hard as long as I am smart about my challenges. Bloodbath, I've done both. It does really suck when you take a lot of damage, so you have to be extremely tactical in your combat, but it's manageable. And that right there gives us 165%, which is a good multiplier, and it's not too difficult. Now, if you're going for some of the achievements, like survive 300 turns on 250%, then the settings I would recommend is bumping your world side up to huge, changing your challenge difficulty to experienced, turning the bloodbath on, and then from there, that's where you have to start making a decision. Going down to 9 starting villagers is doable, just slightly more difficult. Basically, you're gonna have one less warrior, and then you can either make it harder to gather or make the world even bigger. If you do this, you're going to have a much harder time collecting the end game resources because they're almost always further away from your village. Every now and then you'll get super lucky and have one within a day or two's trek from your village, and then that's kind of the main resource that you're counting on to gear your people out with. For me, I usually just go with the hard economy, and that gives me my 250% to get that achievement. After you've got all that set up, then between your 2 gods you get to choose. Each one at level 1 has a skill, so that you have some agency in your selection. For instance, Zoria is kind of like the warrior god, but she gives her people extra experience each turn. And Morena is the goddess of death and rebirth, and she lets your villagers research things faster. Additionally, each god will give you a chance of recruiting specific kinds of demons as you play the game, and it's just up to you to unlock, or you could dig around on the internet to find out which ones. The ones that I do know of is Morena gives you a chance at recruiting male vampires, whereas Horus here gives you a chance at recruiting female vampires. And I know everyone has their own thing, so it's just some little something to discover as you play through the game. So starting out, your options are limited. Either of these are pretty good. I mean, people get stronger faster, or you get better equipment faster. So it's up to you. As you level up your gods, they'll gain additional skills, and you can always see the next level and what would get you. So Morena would give you +2 to folklore and +3 to animal kinship for all of your villagers, which is pretty good. Folklore gives you additional options in certain events, and animal kinship gives you a chance of taming wild animals during certain events. Zoria, for example, gives you the Warrior's Path, which gives you +1 damage and +2 range damage for all of your villagers. So essentially, starting the game, if you started with 10 villagers, that's 10 total damage you've already increased at the very start of the game. And then range damage doesn't actually do damage in the challenges. What it does is you choose to use range damage as a tactical card, and whatever the last card you played, it gives that range damage to their attack. So it's kind of like giving them another piece of equipment. And that's the basics of starting a new game and choosing a god. So until next time, this was Demordred. If you like this video, smash that like button. If you want to see the future content as it comes out, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And until next time, enjoy Thea.